Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shared Broadcast 5. This is Lizzie and Karen. I'm going to start with my notes. Um, so the reading for this week was chapter 10 and 11, which to me read a lot like a textbook. I know that this is a textbook, but I felt like it was just a bunch of like bullet points on how things kind of were laid out, different examples of adult learning, that sort of thing. So it wasn't super, nothing made me wonder beyond the actual text. But the quote that I picked was mostly because I commented on Jessica and Martin's shared broadcast 4, and it kind of was a continuous thought from that comment. So the quote that I picked was on page 337, and it is, yet, reports from various literacy research centers have pointed to the lack of professional certification as a challenge to providing high-quality services to adult students arriving at various skill levels and with various goals to programs that, for the most part, allow open entry and exit. So the reason why I chose this passage and how it connects to my personal or professional experience is well, mostly I have a couple friends with PhDs who really just don't understand why they need a teaching certificate to teach their area of expertise. It's almost as if they think it's below them or beneath them to get a teaching certificate because I have my PhD in chemistry. Why would I possibly need to learn how to teach it? Which also kind of pisses me off, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's in my experience, and this is kind of what I said in Jessica and Martin's post, is that although you might know the content, it doesn't mean that you know how to teach it well to others. In fact, I found that a lot of people who know the content so well that they have trouble breaking it down for people who can't see the struggles and see the difficulty in the subject matter, because especially with like math and sciences, I think that a lot of it comes with just knowing and just kind of having some good number sense and seeing the connections that a lot of people really struggle with. So I find that some of the best teachers are those who have had struggles in their previous classes or content that they're working in, or even if they struggled in general as students, because they understand what it's like to grapple with, oh, I have my family that I have to take care of, but I also need to reserve time to studying and posting and going to class, that sort of thing. So I find that people who have experience with that know how to make the material more relevant and make it quick and make it personal and useful for their students. So that's another reason why I find that it's important for adult educators and how it impacts us, is because I think that and just in general for ABE teachers, so adult basic education teachers, if they aren't qualified or don't have the capacity to teach, then it doesn't really set anybody up for success. It doesn't set their students up, and it doesn't set the teacher up for success. In fact, on the next page, 338, it said something about how adult literacy programs reported that student departure from adult literacy programs has been as high as 80% with the first 12 months. And it didn't really say why. Well, it kind of went into it might be because of them balancing school and a life outside of school and the stresses that come with that, or financial reasons. But it could also be attached to the fact that if educators aren't properly taught how to teach, then there's a lack of connection with students and their learners, or teachers and their learners, that affect that relationship and affect why people don't come back. So so I think that it's so pretty much with all that said, I think that that's why the learning and practicing best practices in the classroom is going to be a good way to prepare us as prospective teachers. And I do worry that in all online programs, such as the AEDT program that I am currently in, would be lacking those skills. I feel like I have a boost because I have had 11 years in teaching. However, it is in secondary. And apparently there is a difference between adult and secondary education. However, and it does kind of blur. I do think that there are some teaching techniques that I will continue to use when I start teaching adults. But where I would like to take this, or possible next steps, there isn't much else I would like to add to my observations and discussions, which I know is kind of lame. But I would be interested to know, it said something about that only 22 states require a certification, or some sort of certification for professionals to teach adult basic education. And I guess if they don't require a certification, what do they require, would be what I'm curious about.
Yeah. So I tried to look that up before we had our meeting to find out what even those states were. Mm-hmm. And like, you have to look them up individually. I'm like, I don't have time for all that, you know, but I was really surprised because the whole, the way that adult ed is so focused on how accountability is and all that. I was like, anybody can be an adult educator. Yeah, like that threw me off a lot, you know. And yeah, they just said all you need is a bachelor's and maybe furthering your own expertise, but there was nothing for how to be a teacher and how to teach a group.
Skill. I don't know. It just is.
It is a skill.
Even when I was in my undergrad and I did regular, student teaching, the 12 weeks that I did my student teaching really did not prepare me for a full year of like bags under my eyes and just like I'm at work right now, like the pile of stuff on my desk, like that's ridiculous. So
that's actually a pretty clean desk for a high school teacher. But no, I've actually walked out of graduate classes because the faculty were completely stupid. You know, I had a whole class get up, leave, go to the dean's office and say, you're about to lose how many thousands of dollars in tuition right now if you don't replace this person. And they had to bring somebody off retirement to replace her. She was horrible.
I think that learning how to connect with students and teach in a way that does connect with students is important. And also that is just another skill that you can't really teach somebody. Like you can talk about it. Mm-hmm. I think that mostly, it's more of an experiential,
Yeah. But at least knowing where they come from so you can relate to their situation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Lizzie, what do you got for me?
Okay. So like you, I wasn't entirely inspired by these two chapters. I just saw like thousands of acronyms that I was trying to write down, and then I just figured there was no point in trying to memorize them. I was like, why am I writing down these letters? So from chapter 10, the first quote that sort of caught my attention, and it's mostly because I'm in that situation, in chapter 10 with reference to the declining availability of formal workers training and the transfer of responsibility of knowledge acquisition to the learners to engage in self-directed learning, including e-learning on their own time. So this is page 325. This can be seen as a parallel development to the emergence of the concept of boundaryless careers, described as an outgrowth of downsizing and restructuring that has left both employers and employees lacking a sense of long-term commitment. And I was just caught because it said the concept of boundaryless careers. And I was like, is that what I'm in right now? And it's just because, so in my current position, in this university, when I was hired, I was not aware that there was no such thing as a promotion or no such thing as a raise for the staff. Like the faculty do their tenure thing and they can go up in rank, but there's no such thing as that for the staff. Like you hired in on a pay band and you stay there. Oh. And if you want a promotion, you actually quit your job and apply for something new. Oh. So there's a huge risk factor there. And it has nothing to do with your skills. It has nothing to do with how long you've been at the university. None of that. And so at one point after 5 years, somebody changed their position and they asked me to change mine to become their assistant. And it was going to be an assistant to the director role. And my dad said, does this mean someday you'll be a director? And I was like, actually, no, because there's no promotion system like that. And then he's like, so why are you there? And he's like, there's no upward movement. Why are you doing this? And I was like, that is a damn good question. You know, it's like, but at the time I had a family. So it's more like you're in a job to support your family, you know? So that was why I chose the passage, because it just caught my eye for that one word, boundaryless. How it's important to adult educators and the design of adult education programs. So with that thinking, Seattle University doesn't really have a professional development system for staff. We're all allotted funds. Each department is allotted funds, and then they break it up per staff person. And that amount of money is about a quarter of the cost of a professional conference. It's not enough for you to go do anything. It's enough for you to go buy a book. That's about it. Or for me to pay part of my tuition, not my tuition, but part of the fees each quarter, 1/4 of the year. It's nothing.
If they consider the fact that you can get access to free education, or you know,
I think so, but that's
like, oh, they can
have to apply into a program, you know. I think so. It's kind of, it's tricky.
Yeah.
And so I looked. Let me see what my notes said. So you're dealing with employees who, what's the point? Why are we here? What are we committing for? And so an adult educator in this particular institution would be presented with motivation questions of their students, like what are their students' motivation for coming to an education course of some kind. And you're knowing that your students have very little funds. So your professional development activities would have to be affordable, and it would also have to contain materials to be in a self-directed format, because there isn't an official professional development program here. You know, the staff are on their own. So it has to be affordable, it has to be on their own, and it has to sort of motivate them in some way, either for individual change, or I'm not even sure how they would want to improve their own position, because it's not going to go anywhere, you know. So that's where I was thinking with that. The part of what I would like to learn and possible next steps are not tied to my quote yet again, because it's just not. But I kept reading, and on chapters 332 and 333, the author notes a whole pile of statistics and percentages on distance education. And the thing is that those statistics are based on the 2006-07 academic year.
Yeah.
And given how technology has improved and the way that education is moving now, I'd like to know what those percentages are now.
Yeah.
It's been a decade, you know, and especially in my position, we're working on distance ed and hybrid courses and stuff. So I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, so what are the programs that people flock to as far as online and hybrid courses? You know, what are the numbers and percentages now versus a decade ago?
Something else that is not actually from this class. Sorry, did you want to add on?
No, I'm done. Pretty much.
Something else that was from another class, especially talking about distance learning and just talking about asynchronous learning. We had a presenter in my other class, and he said that he's the director of curriculum at an institution in the state. I can't remember which one, but he said that their online classes have a lower completion rate from students, and that really kind of surprised me, because it just did. And I just thought that, oh, you know, like online courses you can make into your own life, you can fit it in and kind of see how it goes. But I just, so I wonder if anything like that, the fact that it's online also has to do with the fact that, you know, that 90% quote of people not being retained.
And I think it ties into your interest in the lack of certification or whatever. So if you have a lot of my faculty anyway, they don't consider it teaching when it's an online course. They consider just facilitating a conversation. And so they're providing oversight, but they're not actively engaging the students online. Yeah. And so there are some classes that are a little too active online, and then there are some classes that I've experienced that are so far removed, you do feel like you're completely on your own. And if you're not organized or whatever, then you're just going to kind of drift off.
Yeah.
You know? And so having a good faculty person who's certified in teaching and knows how to connect with people would keep them in there.
And I think that this new online format has been great, but I do think that it takes a different type of responsibility of a student to be able to um, manage their life in a way to make time for education, where it's not actually like Mondays and Wednesdays I go to this class and I have to show up. Whereas like here it's Monday through, Sunday, anytime, any place. There's some due dates here and there sprinkled in, but you gotta, work around that. So I think that almost the lack of structure could also be a deterrent for certain students.
Definitely detrimental. Yeah. It took me a while to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, I have 3 minutes before high school bell is going to ring. So I'm ready to wrap things up if you are.
Oh, yeah. Totally ready. Yeah.
Thanks, Lizzie, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.
Okay.